Today, I'm very pleased to present the Ballarat Gov Hub as a candidate for the Regional Commercial Architecture Award. We'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners on the lands upon which Gov Hub is built, the Wadawurrung Dja Dja Wurrung people. We pay our respects to the elders past, present and emerging. The idea for the Government Hub came about through an election promise to decentralise government services to regional centres such as Ballarat, with the aim to stimulate local economy and to revitalise the Ballarat CBD. So the brief for the Gov Hub was to be home for 1,000 government employees with 600 new positions to the city and 400 relocated from within Ballarat. The building is made up of 2 levels of basement car parking, 4 floors of office above ground and 1 level of plant room. The site that was selected for the project was right in the heart of the Ballarat CBD, shown here on this key plan, and in close proximity to the Ballarat Town Hall and a short walk from the Ballarat train station. The project boundary, shown here in red, sits adjacent to the public library and the Civic Hall. And in order to make way for this project, the Ballarat City Council had approved a master plan for the removal of the lower hall, shown here overlapping the site. There is a long history of community activity on this site. From the produce market days of the gold rush to the Civic Hall in the more recent times, where AC/DC actually played here in 1977. But in recent years, the Civic Hall became less used and was eventually boarded up. So this project was very much about repairing the city centre that was once a thriving part of the Ballarat CBD.
Thanks, Luke. The civic realm between each of the buildings, old and new, is really what makes the precinct whole again. And so we've created really strong cross-site links that meet within a central landscape court that you can see in this site plan. On Mayor Street, the space between the Civic Hall and the Gov Hub creates what we described as a north-south meander through the site. And combined with the front door of the Civic Hall, this is kind of the primary community address. The main business address is on Armstrong Street, and an east-west pedestrian lane connects the visitor through to the Gov Hub's main public entries and then through to the central court. The character of the old Civic Hall is very much embedded in the varying colour and texture of its brick surfaces, and we decided to use brick as a binding agent that connected the paved surfaces and meeting pods as a consistent material around the edges of the building at ground level. Whilst not the same brick, it has similar warm tones and texture and anchors the Gov Hub to its place. And this ground floor axonometric shows this constant presence of brickwork wrapping around the base of the Gov Hub, either as a paved area, an external wall, or even internally. And it also shows, you can see here, the new lower kind of a hall space that bridges between the old Civic Hall and the new Gov Hub. This shed-like gable form departs from a conventional suburban scale glassy office block, and the red zinc skin wraps over the roof and the outer walls that face east and west, so cutting down on that morning and afternoon heat load. It also conceals the roof plant underneath the gable. The gable to the south end opens up towards the town hall, while the gable to the north is directed more towards one of the main gateways through Ballarat. And the twist in the roof that you can see in this image here acknowledges that shift in orientation. On Mayor Street, where the precinct addresses the city, you can see the large open gable end facing south that acts as a counterpoint to those more rectilinear forms of the old Civic Hall. And this end is quite open and transparent, revealing the activity of the workplace to the street. The red zinc wrap that I've described is sliced open at key points along Armstrong Street. So there's the cut ends at the north and south, which reveal the inner workings, but there's a slice that accentuates the main arrival pedestrian link off Armstrong Street that you can see in the centre here. And another slice provides windows to the interconnecting stair that you can see on the right-hand side. And they also break down the overall appearance of mass from the street and from the broader city of Ballarat.
Between the Civic Hall and the Gov Hub is a glazed infield building called the Conservatory, which is in the landscape, which is a landscape space in the tradition of the Ballarat Botanical Gardens. It acts as an important arrival and orientation space within the precinct, and it forms one of the key elements of the sequence of civic spaces that connect Mayor Street with the Central Plaza. In the location of the demolished lower hall, a new hall volume replicates the footprint and height of its precursor, the main rectangular space. And continuing the history of having community purpose, the new hall named the Catabine Building will support flexible range of uses. Most recently, it was a gallery space for the Ballarat Photo Biennale. One of the key sustainability drivers for the project was the use of timber as the primary structural system. The biggest benefit to using timber over concrete was that we're able to reduce the embodied emissions by approximately 53%. And when construction commenced in 2019, this project was the third largest commercial timber frame building in Australia.
So the main entry points are organised around the east-west pedestrian lane off Armstrong Street that you can see here running up and down the page. Public arrival for most government services is on the left into a public foyer, and Vic roads have a separate entry to the right. There are 2 cores for each component. People can meet with government in front of the secure line, either informally in the conservatory or in a more formal meeting space in the foyer. So this foyer space that you see here is double height in part. You can see the timber structures expressed and the brickwork of the new hall spaces on show. The foyer is part of a sequence of interior and exterior spaces that form that public realm of the ground floor and includes built-in furniture that you can see in these images to encourage informal interaction between colleagues. This big proscenium window links that Catabine building hall space with the main foyer. Meeting and gathering spaces are brought down to ground floor, either in that secure meeting space to the left that you see there, or in the public spaces as well. And this draws the activity of collaboration and interaction to the street and really creates a lively interface with the community. And it makes the ground floor feel almost like the front parlour and the meeting kind of point for the office floors above. These series of brick chambers that you see from the outside, within they are meeting spaces, a series of those meeting spaces I just described, and the windows allow views in, but also frame views out to various key landmarks.
The overall width of the floor plate is 24 metres, which allows a good level of natural daylight in, and is made up of a 9 by 9 metre grid for the workspaces, which is a large span for timber, and a 6 by 9 metre grid through the centre, which is ideal for meeting and breakout spaces. The layout also enabled a clear circulation path throughout the floor plates. Right from the outset, we wanted to design a facade that would help reduce the overall energy demands of the building. And unlike a traditional office building, where floor-to-ceiling glazing would typically sweep the entire elevation, we targeted a 60% wall to 40% glazing ratio. The windows were then carefully positioned between the 9 by 9 grid to ensure good levels of natural daylight. Here you can see how the windows appear on a typical floor and within the breakout and meeting spaces. In some ways, the windows became more powerful in the way they frame key views around the city, and they provide a unique identity to the variety of spaces throughout the floor plate. Now, the spaces within an office building have become an important way of how we come together to conduct business. This building is made up of a variety of meeting, conference and training rooms with formal and informal workspaces that can facilitate an agile work environment. On level 4, there is a large community space that has an attic feel to it, like being within a roof space that looks out over the city of Ballarat. This is an important space that was created to foster community for the 1,000 employees within the building. And in some ways it serves as a companion space to the conservatory down at ground level. So it's really a space to work, entertain, and really come together in.